TheSixthAxis podcast.
Year According To.
Hello everybody and welcome to another entry in our Year According To series of podcasts. As usual, I'm your host, Chris Lipscomb. In this series, we are talking to people from the gaming community, from TSA and developers about their views of 2015, the games they've loved and what they've been building. Today, I am talking to Oskar Guilbert and Michel Koch, who are from Dontnod, who are respectively the CEO and the game director, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
So, Oskar, say hello.
Hello.
And Michel, say hello.
Hello.
Michel's the game director on Life is Strange, which was an episodic game this year, which kind of, I think it's fair to say, took people by surprise a little bit, but it was very well received.
Yes, we were quite really happy with the reception, and to be perfectly honest, when we launched the game in the beginning of the year, we were not sure at all how it would work with the public, because we really worked on this game with almost no marketing in mind. We just created the game. We wanted to create for players, but also for us. And we really, I think, took some sort of a bet with this game because it was quite different, and I think not easy to be sure how the reception would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different, definitely, but it's even kind of, in my opinion, slightly different to other similar games out there. There's been a lot of episodic, story-based games, but yours is a little bit more freeform than the others are. I think that would be fair to say.
Of course, yes, we are big fans of the episodic game from Telltale, and of course, we had in mind the Walking Dead series or The Wolf Among Us when we were creating Life is Strange. But I think that something that was different, and that at the beginning we really wanted to tell this story of Max and Chloe, and was not using an existing IP, so it was quite of something also a bit risky, because when creating a new IP with two female protagonists and a story about teenagers with almost no action, at least in the first episode, it was with this really slow pacing. I think it was something still different, and but we were really, when we started writing the game, we really fell in love with the protagonist, with the story we wanted to tell, and we knew that we had to find a way to make this game at a point, and we were really, really happy to find Square Enix, who believed in our vision and in this game, and I think it was quite a bold move from them to publish a game like that. Of course, there is a lot of games in the indie scene that are really different and that really are pushing the boundaries. But in the market we are with Square Enix and Life is Strange, is still a bigger budget than most indie games. So it was quite a risk to go with this project, I think. And
what was your impetus behind the time rewinding mechanic? Because obviously that's a fairly core mechanic, and it's kind of interesting that that you see how choices play out both ways, which obviously most other games aren't letting you do.
The rewind mechanism was actually at the really beginning of the game. It was somehow an inspiration from our previous game, from Remember Me, where we had the memory remix sequences. Mm-hmm. It was those small game segments where you could go into someone's memory and you would be seeing one of those memory. And you had the power to, in the memory remix, to go to rewind and to try to change elements in the memory to create a new memory for the people you were hacking. So we started Life is Strange knowing that we wanted to work a bit more in this kind of time mechanism, but we wanted to use this mechanic for a whole game, whereas it would really be the core of the game, of the gameplay, of the story, of the characters. And then we quite quick we worked on the story, on the characters, and we really tried to make this completely cohesive with the theme of the time mechanics. And for example, that's why we created Max as a shy teenager who has issues to go forward in her life. So when you give her the power to even go back in time, it's interesting in a narrative point of view, because she's always hesitating, and now she can hesitate even more and reflect on her own life, on story, and we felt that it was interesting to tell a different story. And on the core mechanics, it's interesting because, on adventure games, of course, you have saves, so you can save your game, reload, etc. And we find that on a player point of view, it would be interesting to just give a narrative power to the player that allow him to do that every time in the game, but really linked to the narrative. So there is no use anymore to use the save games, and you can really just use your character power during the game to go back in time, question your decisions, try different dialogues options. And of course, in the movie, the Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, you can find new dialogue options. For example, you are talking with someone and you learn something about him, you go back in time and you use this information before the character knows that he gave you this information. So it brought us a lot of tools to create puzzles and to advance the story and to tell about the characters and the world of Life is Strange.
I think that's what you say about the save mechanic is quite interesting. Where, as you say, in most games you would just take a save and go back, and building it as more part of the core gameplay. It's a really smart idea, and obviously it opens up other ideas as well. But the butterfly motif as well is something I quite appreciate as a very simple nod to time travel mechanics and the butterfly effect, and using that for this action has consequences thing is quite a nice beat. It really works.
Yeah, of course we are big fans also of pop cultures, and we had in mind a lot of references with books, movies, TV shows, and of course the movie The Butterfly Effect was still in the back of our mind, and the whole butterfly effect theory, the chaos theory, was something that was really important during the production of the game. So I think we came up with the butterfly icon quite early in the game development. We still wanted, of course, to give feedback to the player that he made something that will alter the course of his story. But we tried. We never lied. Each time you see a butterfly in the top left corner, it really means that something will be different later in the game. And we worked a lot on having hundreds, I think maybe almost thousands of small different consequences through the whole story. So sometimes it can be big differences like a new scene or a character dying, but those are really expensive in a production point of view. So of course we don't have too many of those, but we also have tons of smaller consequences. It can be like a difference in the dialogue, a new text message you are receiving, some new headline on the newspaper or on a website, or difference in the environment. And we really tried to put a lot of those, to always engage the player with his story. So he could really feel that the choices making are really tailoring the course of the story. Even if, of course, it's a story that go from point A to point B, we still have a lot of small branches and small intertwined stories based on the player choices.
One of the things you were criticized for, though, was some of the production values, particularly in the lip syncing, because people seemed very on board with the gameplay and the story. But did you find that that was a reasonable criticism? Yeah. We knew from the beginning that we were not perfect on this point. It's not a big huge budget. So from the really beginning of the production, we had to make core decisions. So we knew that something that would be the most important for this game would be the writing, the voice acting. So we had to put a quite important part of the budget on this, and we decided to not spend too much on developing a new lip sync solution that would have taken a big part of the budget, and that would have forced us to be lacking on some other points. So of course we are completely aware that this is far from perfect, and that's something that we will really try to improve in our next games. But for this one, I think that even if the players noticed that at the beginning that it was a bit lackluster, in the end, I think when we look at the players' reaction and the critics, people are quick to forget it, I think. And the fact that we used a stylized rendering for the characters, I think it also is this point, because you are less wanting to have perfect
facial animations, when you have characters that are a bit cartoony. If we had realistic characters, it would have been worse, the impact of this.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because you have got that less realistic art style, which I really like, by the way. It looks really good, and it's quite a unique twist, particularly the way the hair is drawn. But by having that slightly different art style, people are more forgiving, because it's not as noticeable, as you say, as it would be with hyperrealism.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a way to, I think, to pass the test of time. One of my favorite visually game is still Zelda Wind Waker from Cube. And I think this game maybe even didn't need the remake they did on Wii U, even if the remake is really cool. But the GameCube version, it's still gorgeous to look at. And this is when you make some kind of really bold visual decisions. You can have a game that will really age really well but at the opposite, when you're going for realistic and really advanced graphics, sometimes it can age really badly, because the next year everything that you put in your realistic game feels already outdated. So we really wanted for this game to focus on the character and the story, and we thought that going for this stylized rendering would help this, because players would focus more on what was important for us, and the visuals would be more like a tool to tell the story and to give the feelings to the players, instead of being what you are really looking at and focusing on.
Well, we want to talk more about the production process in a moment, but before we do that, one of the things we like to do is ask people some of the games and their highlights from the year. So between you guys, you picked out any games that you really wanted to talk about from 2015?
Yeah, for me personally, I would like to say that, I'm older than Michel. So I play maybe less than he plays.
Sure.
But I play with my kids, most often when I come back from work, for the long work, days we have here. So yeah, what I really like is to have a short, experience, but something really, really cool, something, I can enjoy. So, I would say I played, blockbusters and, the really mainstream games with my children. So I can, and it was a surprise in a way, because, for example, when you play, the new, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, the interesting thing in this game, which makes it maybe a little different from the other series, and maybe even more, of course, if it's just, very, I would say, straightforward experience. It's still a question sometimes about your identity, about your human nature, and yes, and we had some fun playing this, but that's maybe not the very I would say original choice.
No, but there is a lot of interesting things in the way mostly in the single player in the Call of Duties. We know that it's easy to dismiss those games, but there is a lot of really well done things in them, and some really interesting parts.
No, I think that's very true. Like people do give them a lot of criticism, but particularly if you go back to like Modern Warfare, that completely revolutionized first person shooters.
And there is some scenes, some moments in this game that are really, I think, still even maybe sometimes cornerstones, even in a interactive narrative. There is some really, really good scenes. Of course, sometimes it's a bit lost in all the shooting and all the talk about the multiplayer and how the players are behaving on the multiplayer part of those games. But they are still really, really good at some key scenes on narrative aspects.
And I try to find the right term in English, in mise en abîme. How you can translate that? I don't know. In this game you have even a question about the game itself when you have sequences about which happened in the second World War in the Black Ops game, futuristic game. So it questioned the game itself, the identity of the main character, but also the game itself. So it's somehow interesting, even if it's, yes, as Michel said, maybe 95% of just shooting and having, something very simple, very straightforward.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to not being able to give you a better example for this year. But that's what you play. I also played a lot with my kids, Life is Strange. But it's forbidden to talk about the game with Meg, so I just mentioned that, and I will let Michel to maybe give you better examples.
I won't be better. On my side, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time this year because this was a really heavy year with a lot of work on releasing 5 episodes of a game. It's like almost releasing 5 different games. So it was really busy.
Yeah.
And most of the time when I go back home, sometimes I just don't want to play games anymore. I prefer to watch movies or read books or even go to see an exhibition. Absolutely. But there is still two games that really, had an impact on me this year. The first one I think was really Her Story.
Oh yeah.
Which I was a bit I really loved the full motion video games of the past. So when I saw that this game was a full motion video, I had this kind of nostalgic feeling, like okay, let's try this. And I was really amazed by what Sam Barlow did with this game. Like he took all that I liked in the old text adventure games when you could type your answer, and he find a way to remove completely the issues with those games where you would really know that you are facing a game when you try to put something that feels logical to you and the game tells you, I don't understand. And in Her Story, the fact that you are typing to a database, when you fail, when you put a word that doesn't give anything, it's still completely working, and it's working even as a game mechanics, because you think, damn, I didn't enter a word that she said in her interview. And I won't spoil the game, of course, but I think that I made my idea about what happened. I have a pretty clear idea, but there is still a lot of doubts. I didn't see every videos. I think I'm missing some. So I still have what's really good about this game is that at the end, every player will see the same videos, but the fact that it's the mechanism where you are trying to figure out what happened, entering your keywords and making your story as you're playing in your mind, and then finding new videos that change your perception of the character of the story. It was really, really great. And I think it was one of the best detective game, actually a simulation ever made. It felt like, I don't know, being like McNulty in the interrogation room in The Wire or something, like listening to someone and trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't. And I think even on a social point of view, it's really interesting because it shows us that when you begin the game, you see like maybe 10, 20 or 30 some of the videos, and you really start already to think to have some certainties about what she's saying. When you just actually listen to 10 minutes or 15 minutes of what she said, and it shows to us that we are, I think, as human beings, really easy to have misconceptions about someone when you are listening or looking at videos, looking at the personal lives of someone. And this game make you think about that when you advance in the game. And I think it was really, really brilliant.
It really was. And it's definitely, as you say, like the way that it's all about your interpretation of events is fantastic. And it kind of feels like it's one of the most realistic police games ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I really like that element of it, that it's whatever answer you think the answer is kind of how it plays, which is really interesting.
It's really interesting because in the end, there is the gameplay of the game, but there is a lot of gameplay that happens after that in your head. So it's a game that make you work as a game, I think, or something like that. It's really interesting, because I think that in the end, there is no real answer. You don't have a clear answer at the end. You don't have a real ending or something. it's just you. And when you log out of the system and you stop playing the game, you continue to think about the story. Like I think like a detective would do. I don't know. I'm not a detective, but I think that you are always unsure, always trying to have some certainty, even if you have known. And I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, before we cut to your, the other game that you picked, Michel, we'll, talk a little bit more about, Life is Strange. And one of the things, that we want to ask you about was how did you find doing an episodic game? Because obviously Remember Me was, one title built and released in one go, whereas here you, as you referenced, you're kind of releasing 5 games over a year, which sounds horrible.
Yeah. At first, that was really it was still a creative reason for us when we start working on the game with the other co-game director, with Raoul. We really wanted for this story to use maybe the TV series approach of telling a story. You know, when we're so having 5 episodes is really a good way to cut your story into chapters, to really think about the beginning and an ending of each chapter, so you can really control the rhythm, control the reaction of the players. Because for a game like this with 2 to 3 hours playtime per episode, we know that most of the players will play one episode in one playthrough, so we can really afford to have really slow moments in one episode and have and put the narrative beats at the right moments. When you're playing a game that's like 15 or 20 hours in one release, like Remember Me or other non-episodic games, you never know when the player will stop playing and go back to his life. So sometimes he might just stop playing right before something really important happens, or in a really slow moment. And so you never know in what state of mind is leaving your game. And sometimes you might not want to come back if he left the game at a really slow moment or something that wasn't captivating him. With this short experience per episode, so we can really be more, try to have a better reason, yes, for the player to enjoy the episode as a whole content. Like you wouldn't stop a TV episode in the middle. You are looking at the TV episode in one, most of the time in one full session. But there was also a lot of hard work with episodic, I think.
Yeah, it from the production point of view, it was something extremely difficult, and I think Michel just forget all the long hours and weekends he spends at the office. because what is interesting is that when you do an episodic game, it's extremely rewarding, to release it on the market relatively quickly, because we released the first one, it was in January, I think. End of January. And the last one was released in October. Yeah. So, it takes almost 10 months between those two. And if you release the game all in one, I would say, in the box version, you have to wait this 10 months more, and you have no feedback from public, no rewards. And for us, as the reception of public was from the beginning extremely positive, I think it motivates also the team to continue and to work really hard to deliver, to keep the quality of the game from one episode to the other. That's something. So it's extremely hard, as you said at the beginning. It's 5 games in one. Delivering 5 games, in 10 months, it's extremely hard. But on the other hand, it's possible because it makes it easier, because public, the public is there, the community is there, and you have their support,
Yeah, I really don't know how it would have gone if the reception for episode 1 would have been bad. I think it would have been really not easy at all to continue and to motivate the teams to work on the next episode. But yeah, the good reception was really a fuel for the teams, because we're making games for the players, and when we see right at the release of episode 1 that we are starting to have a community that really loves the game, it gives us a lot of strength to continue and to try your best to make the best of the next episodes.
And do you genuinely take player feedback into account as you're building it?
We took some, of course, the whole story was written way before the release of episode 1, so we knew the beginning and how the game would end. We knew most of the scenes in each episode. Everything was really completely written, but we still had the leisure to take into account some of the feedbacks of the community. So sometimes when we saw that, for example, the community would really love one character, we tried sometimes to add a bit more dialogues for these characters or to adjust just a bit of things. And I think we also learned from, since we are making the episode on a chronological order, we learn also from some of what we made in episode 1 to improve something in episode 2, etc., to sometimes make better branching dialogues. Or so we had the leisure to adjust a bit based on the players' feedbacks and our own feedbacks on each episode.
It seems that would be a very valuable thing. I mean, even as you were saying earlier, from a motivation standpoint, just to be able to go, yes, there are people who like this game. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we of course we saw the reception on the critic reception and the public reception, and we also received a lot of letters from fans or
that's nice.
Photos of cosplays and stuff like that. So it's always really cool for the team when you go to work on the morning and you have a package there, and a few times we received package with alcohol, so we tried not drinking in the morning, but it was really really cool to have our chocolates or stuff like that. I think it shows to the teams and everyone that it's worth to work those long hours and to work. So it's still a lot of work, and some of us were going back home really late at night. And when you have the feedbacks from the fans, you say, okay, maybe it's worth it to do that.
You had about 2 months between the episodes. Did you find that's kind of like a good length of time to be able to get the next one prepared?
We always could use more time to make episodes, but we also think that 2 months is maybe the good rhythm, and we shouldn't do more because players, I think anticipation for players between episodes is interesting. We've seen that the communities really like to develop theories, to talk about the game, to have time to digest one episode and wait for the others. But I think that if we wait more than 2 months, I think for our last episode, we did wait a bit more because we were just a bit late on the last episode. But I think we should always try to, we really wanted to try to keep this 2 months as the maximum, because we think that after that players might start to feel a bit, to forget a bit about the previous episode, and it might feel a bit too long. So it's a hard balance to find. We would love even to have been a bit shorter, like 1 month and a half, but it's not really possible in a production point of view to finish one episode with this amount of time.
I think, as you say, getting that rhythm is really important because, it helps to build the anticipation. And I think 2 months is a good point. So, that people don't forget. I think beyond that, people kind of have moved on a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been doing quite well in the awards season, I see. Like, people seem to be coming back to this game now at the end of the year. I'm going, that was awesome. Yeah,
we are really, really happy again by the reception, on the public side, but also on our, on the, I would say about the award, the journalists. We are really lucky that this game really appealed to many people in many different ways. And one of the anecdote I could say is that, one of my friends, she's older than I. She's almost 50. I don't want to tell you my age. It's a secret. But she when we had a drink, and she said, okay, so when will be the next episode? And because I really want to play, and I'm really interested in your game, and it's probably the first game or one of the maybe only game she played, from the beginning to the end. And that's extremely rewarding. And we see this, in many different ways. And just one of the last awards we received, it was a game for Propose, on,
it was game for Impact.
For Impact.
Oh, yeah.
At the Game Awards.
And Game Award and that World Game Award, something like that. Yeah, it's for us. it means also something, that people can maybe think about some themes they will not usually find in video games or in video game and they can talk with their friends, with their kids, with their parents about all this. So it's also something extremely rewarding for us.
And I think that it's a really great year for us, of course, and we are really happy about that, because when you look at the awards, we are alongside some really great games and a lot of games, like some games like The Witcher or Metal Gear Solid 5 or Fallout 4, and a lot of other games like Her Story or Undertale. There is a lot of this. I think this has been a really great year for gaming. There is a lot of, or Bloodborne, a lot of really great games, and seeing that we are nominated a lot of times and even winning some of those awards against those wonderful games, I think it's really great for us, because like I said in the beginning, we never thought when we made this game about marketing, about reception. We just wanted to make this game the way we made it, and seeing that it gets recognition from players, from the press, from the critics, it's really humbling, and really, it feels really great for us. We're really happy about it, of course.
Well, we'll move on to Vampyr in a minute, which you announced earlier in the year. But before we do that, Michel, you said you had another game that you wanted to talk about from this year.
Even more than a game, it's more like I really love this year for the news about Tim Schafer.
Oh yeah.
Because I was really happy and I enjoyed so much playing again Grim Fandango Remastered in the beginning of the year, which was one of my favorite point-and-click game of all time. So seeing a remastered version with just better controls and a bit improved graphics, it was really awesome to be able to play this game again, to enjoy the wonderful music, the voice acting, the characters. I think Tim Schafer is really I really love the way he's writing games, and it was a huge inspiration. Most of his adventure games are just brilliant, and I used to play them all the time since I was young. And learning recently that he was also doing a remaster of Day of the Tentacle, of Full Throttle, and the announcement of Psychonauts 2. So I think it's a really great year for Tim Schafer and for us as players, because there is 4 Tim Schafer titles that were announced this year. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, there was kind of a point with Tim Schafer where you were like, you need to slow down. He does seem to have a lot coming about, but it's great for him. He's going for a real renaissance.
And it's great for us, I think.
Yeah, for everyone. I mean, talking about Grim Fandango and his point-and-click heritage, which, like, Life is Strange is kind of an extension of that in the way you interact with the world. Yeah,
of course. For us, it's of course it's a modern narrative adventure, but at the core for us, it's still a point-and-click game, even if it's completely with new controls, new way of telling the story. But the core mechanics, it's still interactions, dialogues, inventory management. Even if it's really light in Life is Strange, we wanted to have an inventory. So, of course, the roots of the game are really well anchored in the point-and-click genre.
Sure. Well, back in February, you guys announced Vampyr, your next game, which was a bit weird given that you had Life is Strange still coming out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we have at Dontnod we have, let's say, 2 teams.
Sure.
One is, and it's a heritage from Remember Me, because one of the team, as Michel mentioned at the very beginning, is something which comes from all the memory remix team and all the cinematic team we had for Remember Me. So with really strong. So I say that strong. This team really want to continue to do narrative games with a strong narrative background and a slow-paced game, and when we can tell something, a story, original story, that's something they're really passionate about. And there's also another team which is more, I would say, focused on action, combat, and this kind of things. So since a long time, this team was working also to create a new concept, and Vampyr is the result of the work of this team. So for us, it's not, a competition between two titles or, there's no, I would say that there's no problems to having, those two teams working in parallel and on totally different projects. I don't think that, Life is Strange and Vampyr are in competition in any way. Yeah. So for us, it's not a problem to talk, in the same time or before one game and to the other. Of course, they have different teams, different part of Dontnod.
And of course, we are always talking together and learning from one team to each other. We are really learning things they're doing, and we can talk to them about what we did on Life is Strange. And I also think that for Dontnod as a company, it was really important to go to this by project production point of view, where you can really have two projects at the same time, not at the same position and development. So it's really most easier to manage resources on the studio. And if you only have only one game, you are always come to a point where you are like 60 people working on the game. Then when it's finished, you only need 20 people. So it's really hard to manage on a human level. You might need to lay off people. So when you have two projects, you can, I don't know what would be the word, but balance the teams and try to keep most of the people of the company.
So we have, so when I said the two specialist teams, more I had in mind the core teams, of course, but then you have people like, environment artists or, character artists or, even some of the level designers you can use in both projects, and it's not a problem, and it's obviously easier to manage resources when you have two projects than when you have, this peak of production when you need, maybe 100 people and for a game, and then, you go down and you start to work on something new and you only need, a writer, a game director and a concept artist. So, for us, it allows us also to, as Michel said, to balance better the team, keep resources inside the company and I would say, accumulate knowledge, make a lot of progress in terms of, know-how of the team.
With Vampyr, is that game, obviously you can't reveal too much about it yet, although you gave us some more details, a little while ago, I believe. Was it last week?
Last week, there was a press release and interviews of the team, of the Vampyr, let's say game director Philippe and, Stefan and Greg, the art director.
Has is the game kind of evolving nicely? I mean, you don't want to tell us too much about it right now, but is it coming along nicely? Are you quite happy with the progress you're making with it?
Yeah, we are very, very happy. It's really moving forward very well. It's, of course, you never know before you release it, and it's always a bet. But, we are really very happy, and, I cannot say a lot more,
sure.
but because, it's the beginning, but the team is definitely happy and we are happy and things are moving forward well.
And something I'm really excited about is that, to show that we have a variety of projects at Dontnod. We can have a sci-fi game about a woman who go into people's memory. We can have an adventure game with two teenage girls, talking about friendship and social issues. And we can have a game about a vampire in the beginning of the century during the World War I and talking about those what it is to be a vampire and those moral issues. So I think it's really interesting to show that we can work on a broad range of subjects. And what's really important, I think, for us in the company is to try to tell new stories and to create new worlds and to not focus on only one small element and always do the same thing.
And with this, obviously, you're going for a single release this time rather than episodic. Was that an obvious decision to make? Does it better suit the game, do you feel?
Yeah, for Vampyr, we thought, as it is an action RPG, for us, it's something which has to, the player has to choose for us, how long he want to play it, how he want to be, engage with the world, with the characters. So for us, it's different from Life is Strange. It's not the same genre.
Yeah, I think that episodic is an interesting release format, but maybe not for all sort of games. It really depends of your. I think it could work maybe, but might not be the best solution to make Vampyr as an episodic game. Yeah. So it's really, when you're beginning a project, you need to ask yourself what will be the best rhythms, what the playtime I think for the player, what do I want him to feel? Is it more like he can play a lot of time and getting him immersed in the world, or do I want him to follow a story with some kind of rhythm? I think it's a lot of creative process at the beginning, so you can think of what would be the best release. I don't know, maybe sometimes we had Life is Strange with 5 episodes, but maybe thinking of another game could be 2 or 3 episodes or more. I think it really depends on the story, the characters, and really the gameplay, of course. Yes, yeah. What you want the player to feel when he's playing.
Mm-hmm. For us, it reminds me, it's funny when we start to, remember me, the female main protagonist, then we had Chloe and Max in Life is Strange. And so people say, okay, we'll do games only with female female main characters. And then we do, Vampyr with a male main character. And so the question is also, yes, would we do that not to do only episodic games? No, for us, it really depends, as Michel said very well, of the story we want to tell, of the gameplay we want to give to the player, provide to the player, and that's for us the main thing which make us decide of the genre, of the way we will distribute the game, and also of the choice of the main character.
Well, before we wrap things up today, have you got any social media stuff you'd like to give out to our listeners before we close the interview out?
Oh, yes. I'm on Twitter, and I try to read a lot of what the players are saying, and so we have my Twitter account. We have the Twitter account of the company, so we can give you that.
Yeah, sure.
So mine is Dontnod_Michel.
Yep.
And mine is Dontnod_Oskar with a K.
Okay.
And we also have Dontnod_ENT, which is Dontnod Entertainment official, I would say, Twitter. Yeah. And there's also obviously Life is Strange Twitter account, which is easy to find.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, guys. It's really interesting conversation, particularly with the episodic versus with the advantage you talk about doing episodic gameplay, which not a lot of people talk about that much. But for now, this has been another episode in our Year According To series of podcasts. We will be back soon with even more content. But for now, goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Sixth Axis Podcast.